Well, 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 what is up, boys and girls and babes? Here we find ourselves yet again. The leaves on the trees outside are starting to change colors, and it is getting a little cooler outside as well. And so here we are, ready and willing to kick off another season of Washington Capitals hockey, and by extension, of course, of the Jenaya Talks Caps podcast as well. Welcome back, babes. It is so great to have you all here with me once again. I cannot emphasize that enough. So excited, really, I am to kick off another season of this podcast here with you all, and of course another season, like I said, of Washington Capitals hockey, what should hopefully be another very exciting season of Caps hockey as well. Lots to talk about here today before we get the 2025-2026 season underway, and I am looking forward to sharing it with all of you, as we do always here on this podcast. And just a reminder for those who aren't familiar, maybe this is your first time listening, and if that is indeed the case, welcome. First of all, we are so thrilled to have you here. But yeah, if you are new here, or even if you are a returning listener and, it's just been a long off season and so you have forgotten, I just wanted to give a quick reminder to everyone that last season, near the end of last season, you will remember, we did expand the show to be available for you in multiple different formats. So you can now, of course, still find us in the audio only version if that is what you prefer. If that's how you prefer to listen. Maybe you just don't like my face, I don't know. And that's okay if that's the case. But if you do want a video version of the podcast, then that is available for you now too over on YouTube. And the YouTube channel is just under the same name, Jenaya Talks Caps. So you can find us over there as well if you do prefer video consumption of your podcasts. And if not, like I said, the audio only version is still available and will continue to be available in all of the same places that it has always been. So those, of course, being Apple Podcasts, Spotify, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Pretty much anywhere and everywhere that you would want to get your podcast from. I could list them all, but I don't think I really have to. Anywhere and everywhere, basically, that you would, like I said, want to get your podcast from, we are available for you pretty much everywhere. So if you don't mind, folks, if you like the show, please do click on that subscribe button for me as well, and we will have a ton of fun together this season discussing the trials, tribulations, and hopefully a lot of successes of our Washington Capitals. And yeah, babes, first episode of the new season. So excited, like I said, to be here with you all. Had to get that little bit of housekeeping out of the way, but we have got a jam-packed slate. Multiple things to talk about here today. Let's just say that. Taking a look at the opening night roster for the Capitals, a flurry of moves coming just under the wire for them to get down to that 23-man roster that the NHL requires. So we will talk about all of that, who made the cut, who didn't, and why they did or why they didn't, as that is not always as simple as just who performed the best throughout the preseason. Just ask Ivan Miroshnichenko, who was sent down to join the Hershey Bears after a phenomenal training camp and preseason by him. And so, yeah, we'll look at all of that, how the roster's shaping up for this 2025-2026 season. We'll give some predictions, some hot takes. I will give my prediction for the Metropolitan Division specifically, and then we'll throw in some hot takes, like I said, including some from some of the other divisions around the league as well. So basically, it's just going to be a really, really fun episode because hockey is back, baby. Oh man, it feels like we have waited forever to say that. Not a lot happening at all over the offseason, not just for the Capitals, but for any team, really. It was a very, very, very slow offseason around the NHL. But yeah, now, we're through the training camps, we're through the preseason, and hockey is officially back, like I said. And you simply, you can't beat that, right? Even though my Toronto Blue Jays are trying to beat that right now. They are currently trying their very best to draw my attention away. But for me, hockey is still hockey, and hockey is always king. So let's go, baby. Let's get into it here. So to recap the moves that the Caps have made here, coming to the end of training camp and the start of the regular season, in order to, like I said, get the roster down to that 23-player limit instituted by the National Hockey League. All teams, you can't carry more than 23 players. So the Capitals, to get there, they did have a couple of injuries during their very last preseason game, so you never like to see that. They almost made it through unscathed, but that seems to never be the case for the Washington Capitals. So yeah, during their very last preseason game, they did have a couple of injuries, specifically on their blue line, and so that has affected some of these decisions here as well, as, obviously it would, with both Matt Roy, okay, that's a big one. Matt Roy and Dylan McIlrath as well being injured during that game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. And like I said, that was the very last game of the preseason for the Caps, and so it certainly sucks, to lose two defensemen and two right-handed defensemen at that, under those circumstances in the very last game of the preseason before the real season is set to begin. But what can you do, right? Like, that's life. That's the NHL. Injuries happen. So with those two injuries on the back end, throughout these last few days of training camp here, the Caps opted to put forward Ethan Frank and goaltender Clay Stevenson on waivers in the hopes of being able to send them down to Hershey. And the Caps have caught what is, in my opinion, a huge break with being able to sneak Clay Stevenson through waivers on the very last day for waivers here ahead of the opening night rosters needing to be set. They are able to sneak him through, like I said, last minute under the wire. He goes unclaimed after many insiders, Elliot Friedman up here in Canada included, had told us that there were many teams basically frothing at the mouth, waiting to claim the talented 26-year-old netminder. So it was good on the Caps to wait until the very last possible day to try to sneak him through. That was a smart move, as many of the teams who had been waiting to put a claim in on Stevenson had gotten antsy and or desperate while waiting. And so, these teams, they started getting nervous about waiting until the very last day to be able to even try to claim this goaltender, right? And of course, like only one of those teams would have even been able to get him at the end of the day anyway. And everyone else would have been caught basically with their dick in their hand and going home empty-handed without a goaltender. And so many of these teams got nervous and either claimed or traded for somebody else. The Edmonton Oilers, they traded for Connor Ingram. The Toronto Maple Leafs, they signed James Reimer to a professional tryout. It's hard to get that out without laughing. James Reimer, folks, in 2025. But yeah, they signed James Reimer to a PTO, and then they also claimed Caden Primo off of waivers, evidently after realizing that this is the year 2025 and James Reimer hasn't been good in nearly a decade. And so a lot of these teams that were rumored to have major interest in Clay Stevenson, they ended up making other moves at the position before the Caps ever did put Stevenson on waivers. And so the Caps, there's no other way to say it. Like, they get lucky here, and they get to keep Clay Stevenson. And then, even with those waiver placements, the Caps still needed a corresponding move in order to get their roster down to 23. They had placed Dylan McIlrath on injured reserve. And so they sent forward Ivan Miroshnichenko, like I alluded to at the top of the episode there, who is young enough that he is waivers exempt. That is a big part of this. So they send him down to Hershey, and that got their roster for the big club down to 23 guys. They had also previously sent down a number of promising young guys who had really, really good training camps and really, really good preseasons. Forwards Andrew Crystal and Ilya Protas among them. And this was, like I said, largely because of their waivers exempt statuses for a lot of these players and the fact that they're still so young. That was definitely factoring into these decisions here. There were a number of the Caps young prospects who looked throughout training camp and the preseason that they definitely could play and play well in the NHL right now. But getting a year or two in Hershey is never a bad thing for a player's development. And with their waivers exempt statuses, it makes it all too easy to just send those guys down for a year or for however long, instead of, risking losing someone who does need waivers to be sent down. Like in my mind, for example, up front, right? If we look up front, like you had Hendrix, Lapierre, Sonny Milano, Ivan Miroshnichenko, and Andrew Crystal, who all probably deserve to be on this team in the NHL right now, with the performances that they put on throughout training camp. But there were only 2 spots, of course, right? And with Miroshnichenko and Crystal both being waivers exempt and being able to be easily sent down to Hershey without any risk of losing them, it did seem like the writing was always on the wall for the start of this season that they would both be sent down no matter how well they performed. And they did perform very, very, very well. It's an unfortunate and unfair part of the business of the NHL with all of the waiver considerations and everything that goes into building a successful organization for the long term. But I mean, at the same time, like, it's not as if either of Hendrix, Lapierre, or Sonny Milano didn't deserve to make this team, right? Like, they're not just here because they would need waivers to be sent down. Like, they both played fucking incredible throughout the entire preseason. They both had really, really strong camps. Like, Hendrix Lapierre led the entire NHL in points throughout the preseason. That's awesome to see that from Hendrix Lapierre. And Sonny Milano, he led the entire NHL in goals throughout the preseason. So it's not as if these 2 guys were like coasting, right? And just dining out on their waiver status in order to make the team. Both guys really, right from the get-go of training camp, I thought, they showed up. They showed that they wanted spots, that they were here, like I said, to really put their best foot forward to make this team. I thought Sonny Milano looks fucking phenomenal, honestly, for having been, off of the ice for basically a full calendar year, right, due to injury. And so that is going to be a huge boost to the Caps lineup if he really is back to his old self, where he's, using his speed and his hands and his creativity and creating offense pretty much at will. And Lapierre, if you remember, like, the Caps' plan was actually to start Connor McMichael at third line center this season, right? But Hendrix Lapierre came into training camp and he has basically forced the coaching staff's hand by having such an insanely strong showing. Like I said, leading the entire NHL in points in the preseason. And so him coming into camp the way that he did and performing the way that he has, that has allowed the Caps coaching staff to move Connor McMichael back into the top 6 as a winger, where he played the majority of last season and found a ton of success, scoring 26 goals and nearly 60 points in his first full season as a winger. And so if Hendrix Lapierre and Sonny Milano can both keep this up during the regular season, it is going to go a hell of a long way towards fixing that third line that was really the Caps' Achilles heel, for much of last season. And obviously, specifically Lapierre being a centerman, right? Like, if his level stays up where you can keep him at third line C, then that is huge for the Caps in a number of ways, as it also, like I said, allows you to keep Connor McMichael in the top 6, where he scored 26 goals last season. And I've got to be honest, like, I've said this to a number of friends since the preseason started, but like last season, since he was gone for basically all of the season last season, I've got to be honest, like, I had largely forgotten that Sonny Milano was even on this team, to be frank with you. And so I wasn't even really, thinking about the fact that they probably miss him out there, right? Like, they probably missed him out there during the playoffs last season, during that second round for sure, where they could have used an extra goal or 2. But yeah, I mean, like, during the preseason, these past few weeks, Caps fans, myself definitely included, have definitely been reminded of just how good Sonny Milano is, especially offensively. And I think he can definitely help that third line if given the chance, if he is truly healthy. So lining him up for opening night, Spencer Carbery currently has the Caps line combination set as follows. Alexei Protas, Dylan Strome, Alex Ovechkin. Ovi is on the right wing on this line, and this is the line that Spencer Carbery used a lot last season, and they were very, very, very good together with Ovi on the right side. And then we have got Pierre-Luc Dubois centering Connor McMichael on the left and Tom Wilson on the right. And again, that is a line that Spencer Carbery used a lot last season. And again, they were very good together. So we know what that looks like. And then the new look third line for now is Hendrix Lapierre, like I said, centering Anthony Beauvillier and the rookie Ryan Leonard, who I thought was just like absolutely phenomenal throughout the preseason, getting stronger and more confident with every passing shift that he skates in the NHL. This kid has such a mature game. Like, can I just say that? Like, he's probably the most mature 20-year-old that I have personally seen out there on the ice. Like, he just does so many of the little things right already. So many of the little details in his game are so strong. He's so coachable. And yeah, he does so many things well already, like, especially, like I said, those tiny little details, that you usually only see, or you hope to see at least with veteran players. Like he's so strong along the boards, on the walls, defensively in his own zone. He takes care of the puck. And yeah, I mean, like, with the puck starting to hit the back of the net for him now with quite a bit of frequency throughout the preseason, you can see for sure that his confidence offensively is growing quite literally with every passing shift, like I said. And so we know that the kid has got the offensive skills, right? Like, we saw it for sure at Boston College, where he was the first NCAA player to put up back-to-back 30-plus goal seasons in a long time, I believe since Cam Atkinson, right? And we saw it again at the World Juniors, where he led Team USA to back-to-back gold medals. So it's very exciting as a Caps fan to see that beginning to translate to the NHL level, I guess is what I'm trying to say, offensively, right? Like I said, even when the pucks weren't going in, the few games that he did play at the end of last season, all of the details in his game are so strong. He's good defensively, all of that. But now to see those offensive capabilities that he has starting to translate to the NHL level, it's really exciting. And I really think he's going to be a very, very exciting player for the Capitals organization for a very long time. And in my opinion, anyway, he is a great dark horse pick for the Calder Trophy this season, as I do think, preseason is preseason and all of that, but I just feel like, based on what I saw in preseason, it wasn't just so much that the pucks were going in, it was the way that he seemed to get more and more and more confident every single time that one did. And he was just like making more creative plays with the puck, doing more, like I said, of what we saw him doing at Boston College and in the World Juniors. So I do think the points are going to really start coming for him in his rookie season. So yeah, a great dark horse pick, in my opinion, for the Calder Trophy this season. Anthony Beauvillier here on this line as well. Obviously, he was re-signed by the Caps during the offseason after he had a very strong postseason showing for the Caps, filling in on their top line when Alexei Protas was injured right before the playoffs started. And Beauvillier, to me, he was re-signed for two reasons. Number one, because he is historically a very good playoff performer, right? Like, he shows up in the big moments and he scores you big goals. And we saw that as well during his first season here with the Caps. Number two, he was re-signed, I think, because of his versatility as well. Like, you can play him third line, as Spencer Carbery is doing here to start the season. You can play him fourth line, as they did at times last season. He was very good, anywhere that they put him last season, including on that fourth line with Nick Dowd as his center. And, as we saw in the playoffs as well, like, you can play him on the first line with Alex Ovechkin and Dylan Strome, and he looks right at home there as well. Like, he looked really, really good with those two in the Stanley Cup playoffs last season, and he played very well there when given that opportunity. So I do think that that showing that he had in the postseason on that line with Alex Ovechkin and Dylan Strome, that probably went a long way towards the Caps re-signing him. And his versatility, like I said, really just gives Spencer Carbery a ton of lineup options, as he can play him up and down the lineup and know that he's going to get good minutes out of him. And then the fourth line here to start the season, it is, of course, the ever-reliable Nick Dowd, centering Brandon Duhaime and newcomer 23-year-old Justin Sourdif as well, who I keep getting told by like almost everyone that we are going to love his game, Justin Sourdif, that is. But I will, as always, wait to see for myself before passing any judgments. But yeah, I mean, the reviews so far have been good from the Caps beat reporters who have seen him up close. So like I said, up to this point, I will take their word for it, and then we will see for ourselves once the real season gets underway here. And frankly, I mean, like Nick Dowd makes anyone good, right? So there's that too. And then on defense, a couple of injuries to start the season, obviously, with Matt Roy and Dylan McIlrath both being injured during that final preseason game. That, of course, has changed things a little bit. So we thought that we were going to know what the defensive pairings were for sure coming into the season. And actually, we're just now hearing, by the way, that we might even have a third injury on defense to start the season, as newcomer Declan Chisholm was apparently cut by a skate blade during practice today. So our best wishes obviously go out to him. Hopefully that is nothing too serious, as those skate cut injuries can be pretty scary. So we hope the best for him, for sure. I'm just checking here. I'm not seeing any additional update on it yet. Just that, yeah, he was rushed to the locker room. So pretty scary, but hopefully he will be okay. And yeah, I mean, with all of those injuries and their status is largely up in the air for the most part on a lot of these guys on the back end right now. We can't be exactly sure yet what the Caps defensive pairings are going to look like on opening night against the Boston Bruins. But we can probably pretty safely assume that barring any more injuries, knock on wood, that you are probably going to see John Carlson reunited with Martin Fehérváry. That will obviously be a welcome sight, as, Marty, of course, he missed all of the playoffs last season after suffering a knee injury that required surgery very late during the regular season. So that was a huge blow to the Caps right before the playoffs, and it will be a huge boost now to get him back for sure. It will be great to have him back, and it will also be great to have the version of John Carlson back that comes with him playing with Martin Fehérváry, right? Like, that's a 2 for the price of 1 upgrade on our defense right there. From the defense that took the ice versus the Carolina Hurricanes during the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs last season. Like, my God, was John Carlson ever brutal during that series. But I mean, you can't even really blame him because he was extremely overworked, right? So it'll be great to get him back with Marty Fehérváry. That should help a lot. Marty Fehérváry, obviously, a young player, a minute muncher, a great defensive defenseman. He added quite a bit of offense to his game last season as well. He's kind of been steadily improving the offensive side of his game every season, ever since he joined the Caps, really. So it was great to see that continue last season. But yeah, just such a solid, reliable, great defensive defenseman, and it should really, really help John Carlson getting Marty Fehérváry back in the lineup. So that should be a good pairing for the Caps once again. And Fehérváry, by the way, re-signed to a great contract extension with the Caps over the offseason. He is going to be here for at least 7 more seasons after this one, after that contract extension. So that is great news, obviously, if you are a Washington Capitals fan. Jacob Chychrun and Trevor Van Riemsdyk look to be playing together again to start the season, at least before this latest injury to Chisholm occurred. So we will see if that changes anything. And Rasmus Sandin, who is normally paired with Matt Roy, he was skating on a pairing with Chisholm at practice. But again, that was obviously before Chisholm was cut by that skate blade. So we will see what happens now. We'll see whether Chisholm is good to go for opening night or not. But the Caps do still have rookie Vinny Iorio around just in case. But they are already here. Regular season hasn't even started yet. We're just coming to the end of training camp, and they are already kind of starting to run out of defensemen here. So we will hope for the best on all of those injuries, hope that none of them are anything too serious, and certainly for Declan Chisholm, cut by that skate blade today, like I said, we hope the very best for him. Hopefully that is nothing too serious and he's going to be fine. You know what? I'm going to grab a tea here. I could pause it and like edit it, but I don't really want to, so I'll just drink the tea during the show because you know what? It's the first one of the season and we are just getting back into gear here. So we'll work out all of the kinks as we go along this season. It's always different doing this show by myself. Sometimes I have guests, obviously, and that's always a lot of fun. But yeah, doing it by yourself, you're just like talking nonstop. So sometimes you have to take a drink. And then in net, obviously, we have got the stud, Logan Thompson. He's got a contract extension with the Caps as well for the next 6 years. And I have not felt this good, folks, about a Washington Capitals goaltender since Braden Holtby was minding our crease. And so it is so great to have Logan locked up for the next 6 seasons, right through the prime of his career. He was so good all of last season for us, his first season with the Capitals. And he was like fucking phenomenal, unbelievable during the Stanley Cup playoffs. He led the entire NHL in save percentage during the Stanley Cup playoffs, ahead of even the eventual Stanley Cup winner, Sergei Bobrovsky with the Florida Panthers. Bobrovsky, he was second behind Logan Thompson in save percentage throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs this past season. So we have got a great one as our starter, that is for sure. And head coach Spencer Carbery, he said that they will give Logan Thompson even more of an opportunity this season, kind of steering away a bit from the alternating start strategy that the Capitals employed last season between Thompson and Charlie Lindgren. And, you know, I think that's fair and I think that's wise. Like, Thompson is young still and he can definitely handle more starts. And he was by far the better netminder between the two of them last season. Like, I mean, what did Logan Thompson have? He had like 31 wins and 6 losses, I think. 31-6, right? 31-6-6, I believe it was. So yeah, 31 wins, 6 losses. Like, the guy basically didn't lose a game. It was basically an automatic W for us anytime that he was in the net. So he definitely deserves more starts. Logan Thompson does, and it sounds like he's going to get more starts this season. If you're taking that for face value, what head coach Spencer Carbery had to say at training camp here, which, you know, we probably should take it at face value because I think Spencer Carbery is a pretty straight shooter, right? And then obviously we are in very capable hands with Chucky Lindgren as our backup as well. Like, you really can't go wrong there, right? Like, you have got to love this tandem as a Capitals fan. So reliable. You feel so good, so safe with either of them in net. You really do. So it would appear to be a very strong lineup for the Capitals overall, right? Which begs the question, yet again, of why the mainstream media is so heavily underrating them yet again to open this season. Like, I'm seeing if I can pull up some of the predictions and some of the quotes here. It's just, they're just so heavily underrating them yet again, like I said. And like, now here we are, we're opening this season. I could understand underrating them last season because, you know, the prior season, like, they barely scraped and clawed really their way into the Stanley Cup playoffs, right? They made it as the last wild card the prior season. So I could see, like, coming into last season, why some people would be hesitant to pick them as a playoff team for sure, because you didn't really know like what you were going to get from them, if they were going to be the same kind of team, if they were going to be able to, you know, replicate the kind of magic, I guess you could say, that they had to seize that last wild card spot. But like, coming into this season, to be not just underrating them, but honestly, I'll just say it, disrespecting them. after what they did last season, like you would think that these experts, right? I use that term loosely. That's what they call themselves, okay? Experts. You would think that these experts would have learned their lesson by now after last season, when they all claimed, rather heroically, that the Caps would be one of the worst teams in the entire NHL. And then the Caps, of course, finished in first place in the entire Eastern Conference, ahead of many really, really, really good teams. And so you would think that that would have taught some of these experts a little bit of humility, right? But no, like they're all still claiming, like it's gospel, that the Caps will be bad, that their amazing season last season was not to be taken seriously for some unnamed reason. And, you know, like as if their opinion of our team that they watch for maybe 4 or 5 games a season, if they were going to be honest with themselves, that their opinion of our team should be taken as, like I said, gospel, pretty much. I mean, what can you say? Like, I say that those experts need to pull their collective head out of their collective ass. That's what I have to say, because we all watch this team for 82 plus games per season, right? Like, I watched every game last season, of which the Caps have returned 20 of 23 roster players, by the way. So it's pretty much the same team. I watched every single game last season. I watched every preseason game to begin this season. And so I feel pretty confident, like, making assumptions about my own favorite team that I watch. Like I said, 82 plus every year. This team is fast as hell. They're big. They're heavy. They are on you quick. They are structured. They are skilled. And they play this way all throughout the lineup. That's really the key. Like, it's not 1 or 2 guys. It's everyone, top to bottom. They all play the same way. And that's what makes them such a nightmare for other teams to play against, is that it is relentless in all 3 zones, right? That's what I love about this team. And that's what makes them really, really hard to play against. And like, if these guys, girls, whoever in the mainstream media would actually listen to what the players on other teams, opposition teams who have to play against the Caps, if they would listen to what those players say about the Caps, they might have a different opinion. Because all last season, all of these guys, all of these players, all of these coaches of other teams all said the same thing. The Caps are very, very, very difficult to play against because of all of the things that they do extremely well in all 3 zones. So I don't know. I'm going on a bit of a tirade here, I guess, but like, if the mainstream media wants to discount them again and then be proven wildly wrong yet again, then by all means, be my guest. Keep on picking the Toronto Maple Leafs to win the Stanley Cup every single year. That's working out great for you. As for me, I won't be doing that. As promised, here are my predictions for the Metropolitan Division this season. Let's start with this. Let's start with the top 3, okay? So, to me, I'll do it like this. The top 3 teams in the Metro, in my opinion, are going to be the Washington Capitals, the Carolina Hurricanes, and the New Jersey Devils. You can put those 3 in any order you like that makes you happy, okay? But I think those 3, in my mind, are going to be the top 3 and are going to take up the top 3 non-wild card spots. I think, you know, our old friend, the Pittsburgh Penguins, are going to be absolute ass yet again. Although I really hope that they aren't like too much ass, as I don't really need or want to live in a world where they are being gifted another draft lottery rigging to give them Gavin McKenna. That is not a world that I want to live in. You know, Matthew Schaefer's debut should be fun for the New York Islanders, but I think that's pretty much the only thing that's going to be fun for them this season. The Philadelphia Flyers, although I think they will be for sure a hardworking team under new head coach Rick Tocchet. I say that because, you know, similar to how the Canucks were here in Vancouver during their first season under him, they certainly were a hardworking team during their first season under him before the wheels eventually fell off. Elias Pettersson, JT Miller, all that drama. But yeah, I think the Flyers will be a hardworking team, I guess is my point, but I don't think that the Flyers are like any serious threat to make the playoffs, I guess is what I'm saying. I think they'll be respectable, maybe not in the standings, like maybe not standings points wise, but I think they'll be respectable like game to game. Like I think they will be, like I said, a hardworking team, hard to play against. I think they'll, really try to keep games close. They'll be respectable in that way. I just don't know that they'll be respectable in the standings at the end of the day, if that makes sense. Unless several far more talented teams were to have really bad showings this season, then maybe they could, hard work their way into a playoff spot. It's always possible, right? I just don't think that they are there yet, but I do think that like I said, they'll be respectable within games. Like they'll probably play a lot of like 2-1, 3-1 games, that type of thing. Speaking of bad showings, the New York Rangers will miss the playoffs yet again for the second year in a row. You're welcome. And let's see. Who am I missing here? Yes, the Columbus Blue Jackets. A really heartwarming story of last season was the Columbus Blue Jackets. I was really rooting for them, to be honest, to make the playoffs last season just because of everything that they had to overcome off of the ice in order to get there. They ultimately didn't make it, but they came close. But unfortunately, I do think that they will miss again this season. I just think that there are bubble teams in the Atlantic Division, the Habs, the Senators, who I think are better than them, better than the Columbus Blue Jackets. But anything can happen, of course. A team can underachieve. There can be injuries, whatever, that's why you play the games, as they say, right? All right. Let's wrap this episode up with a few, let's call them steaming hot takes. And then you guys can throw them back in my face after the season when not a single one of them comes to fruition. How does that sound? But yeah, I want to wrap it up here because it is the first episode of this new season, and my voice is not used to this yet, so I'm starting to lose it. So we'll just take another sip here before I fire off some spicy hot takes. Like I said, we'll get this all the kinks worked out throughout the season. In terms of putting more effort into editing the podcast instead of drinking during. But it's just tea. It's not alcohol. Not that you guys would care, but it's actually sleepy time tea. If you guys have had that before, very good. So, hot take number 1. I'm not sure how hot this one actually is, to be honest, but we'll call it a hot take. So hot take number 1, a now 40-year-old Alex Ovechkin will again lead the Metropolitan Division in goals this season. And I'm not going to explain my reasoning for any of these, by the way. I'm just going to literally fire them off with zero explanation. Although, like I said, that first one, I'm not sure even how much of a hot take that is. Like that first one is pretty self-explanatory, right? Like greatest goal scorer of all time, 44 goals in only 65 games last season, playing on a broken freaking leg as a 39-year-old. Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory, baby. It really is. These kids today cannot touch the Great 8. Hot take number 2. Gonna get in some trouble for this one, I feel. Hot take number 2 is that the Toronto Maple Leafs will miss the playoffs in their first season without Mitch Marner. Boom. I told you these were spicy. I honestly, I really thought that the Toronto Maple Leafs last season, I did not like their team. I thought they were not a very good team. It's the truth that all of their underlying numbers, all of their analytics were bad. They weren't a good team. Their goaltending was great. They were not a very good team in front of their goaltenders. They basically rode their goaltending into the playoffs. It was the first time in a while, really, that they couldn't score during the regular season. They can never score during the playoffs, but first time in a while that they couldn't seem to score during the regular season. They really rode Anthony Stolarz and Joseph Wall to the playoffs. So this season, not having Mitch Marner, who was, I would say, probably their best offensive player. Some Leafs fans might disagree with me and say that it's Austin Matthews, but what did Matthews have last season? Like 30 goals? He didn't get that much. So, yeah, I just think without Mitch Marner as well, given that they already were having an extreme amount of trouble scoring goals last season, and not just scoring goals, but like, it wasn't just that they were unlucky. Like, they were not generating scoring chances. They did not have the puck, like, at all during games. They were not generating scoring chances. They were not generating shots even. Like, they just didn't have the puck. So now, without Mitch Marner, I just think that's going to only get even worse. And yeah, Leafs missed the playoffs in their first season without Mitch Marner. That would be very spicy, wouldn't it? You can just picture the reactions from Leafs fans if that were to happen. Hot take number 3. In lieu of the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Montreal Canadiens will take a top 3 spot in the Atlantic Division this season. I frankly was really impressed and really liked what I saw from the Montreal Canadiens during our first round playoff series against them last season. I just think that team is like, that's a team that's on the way up, right? Like they've got a lot of very good young players, full season of Demidov this season coming up. So I just think that they're really going to take a pretty large step forward here this season. Could be wrong, but that is my prediction. Hot take number 4. Getting back to the Caps and the Metropolitan Division here, Ryan Leonard will finish top 3 in Calder Trophy voting. I have seen many people's Calder Trophy lists coming out, and he seems to be being quite underrated as well. That might be just the Washington Capitals effect with the mainstream media, but yeah, he seems to be pretty underrated in this department. I really think, like I said earlier in the episode, he can be a big dark horse candidate to actually win the Calder Trophy. But I think that he finishes top 3 in Calder Trophy voting this season for sure. That is hot take number 4. And finally, hot take number 5, baby. Sidney Crosby. Yes, that Sidney Crosby gets traded before this season's trade deadline. My bet is to either the Montreal Canadiens, Crosby's childhood dream to play for them, or the Colorado Avalanche to play with his buddy Nathan MacKinnon. I'm sure I'm going to take a lot of heat from Penguins fans if there are any listening for that one, hot take number 5, but that's just what I think. That's what I believe is going to happen. And there you have it, Caps fans. There is this season's season preview show for your Washington Capitals, courtesy of the Jenaya Talks Caps podcast. Please, as I said off of the top, if you enjoy the show, please do subscribe so that you don't miss any future episodes. We would love to have you here with us for this entire upcoming season of Washington Capitals hockey. Something tells me that it is going to be an absolute blast of a year yet again. So click on that subscribe button. Follow along. You can follow us on Facebook as well if you feel so inclined. The Facebook page is really growing right now, up to 1,300 plus followers now over on Facebook. So follow along there as well if you like. It's under the same name on Facebook, that being Jenaya Talks Caps. Me being Jenaya, obviously. We really, really would love to have you along for this season and beyond, you know, everything that happens with our Washington Capitals. And as always, babes, it has been an absolute pleasure doing this show with you and for you. Thank you all so much for listening. Until next time, babes, let's go Caps.